This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Athletics.
Leaping at the wall, it's gone! A towering drive into center field by Rooker.
And 29 other MLB clubs.
A judgy blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Swung on, hit high, hit deep to right, away back into the second deck.
Bobby Witt Jr. becomes the first shortstop in Major League history to have two 30-30 seasons.
Shohei Ohtani starts the 50-50 club.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to walk-off dingers to Hall of Fame talk. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live.
Ooh, I like the groove coming in, Towny.
With Shooty Babitt.
I'm just saying, Friday evening in the Bay, A's, Giants, Towny and Shooty. Woo, woo, woo. It don't get much better than that, baby.
Carney Lansford, A's
Ooh,
Hall of Famer,
my
is going to be
God.
here. We'll have the Mark Kotsay show. And George Kontos, who does Giants for NBC Sports Bay Area, he is going to stop by. It's rivalry weekend.
No question about it. I just think back to 1981 and what the A's Giants mean to me. It was the first chance that I got an opportunity to go back-to-back and measure myself against Joe Morgan, and both of us were standing at a tall 5'7" inches tall, every bit of us, and it was quite a moment. Something I dreamed of, watching Joe Morgan when they played the A's, and him ended up giving me one of his custom gloves that it's probably about as big as your hand, one of the smallest second baseman gloves you will see. And it just lets you know how great of a second baseman he was to be able to use it.
Wait, okay, whoa.
Oh,
Joe
yeah.
Morgan, you tell more of the story.
Mm-hmm. Bay Bridge type of series, Giants at Candlestick.
Yeah.
That's where we played the game. Mitchell Page and Cliff Johnson was giving Joe a tough time, telling him that I was taller than he was, and Joe was giving me a tough time. So they backed us up, and I was in awe. Basically, I was just listening, wasn't doing any of the talking.
I mean, Joe Morgan's a two-time MVP, big red machine, World Series champion. You knew at that point he was going to have a plaque in Cooperstown.
When I was speaking with Raleigh the other day, when we were speaking to Raleigh, and just telling him how honored I was to be a part of the fraternity that we have, being a former major league player, I'm in awe just being able to meet some of the guys and listen and talk. And as you move on later in life and you get a chance to come back, because they say no matter how high you go, you shall come down. And those guys that have been up the top of the game have been the best. As they got older and I got older, we start meeting up at functions, golf tournaments, and things of that nature, and get a chance to meet them and understand that they're real people, and to tell them about yourself, and for them to act like they were interested or know anything about you was just amazing. So Joe Morgan, I mean, he was the little man's dream. I mean, this dude was 5'7". He was hitting third in that lineup with Cincinnati. I mean, and he dropped that wing on you. You know what's about to happen, Towny. So God bless his soul and rest his soul, but he is definitely one of the baddest dudes that I got a chance to meet, that I had an opportunity to play the same position as.
Well, obviously this week is rivalry week. Baseball's trying to create some type of buzz inside the season. We saw it last night with the Rangers and the Astros, so they're trying to do that. And, you know, is it awkward now? I was asked that earlier today. I think no. As long as it's going to be in the Bay Area and it's going to be in Northern California, it's not going to be awkward. It's a long divorce, essentially what it is, to be honest with you. I think for some people who work inside of it, it may be a little awkward, but I think for the fans, I don't think there's been enough time. Not enough time has gone by, so we're going to see this till 2028 once the Athletics move to Vegas. I don't know what a rivalry weekend will look like anymore. So I think what we're going to see out at Oracle Park is kind of business as usual, what we've seen in the past. I think you're seeing a lot of people out there. I don't know how big the A's fan base will come out. I think you'll get Oakland chants and you'll have a lot of Oakland A's stuff, but I don't think it's going to be much different than what we've seen in the Bay Bridge series probably the past couple of years.
I look at baseball a lot of times parallel to life and how common they have in a lot of areas. And you bring up that it's like a divorce. I look at it a little differently, especially the way that they're coming together tonight. How about a separation? You can come to agreement to move on, go in a different direction. You can still be friends, can get together, have dinner, be around other common friends, and act like just enjoy the evening or the event, whatever it is, and put bygones to be bygones. And I think that's what we have to do here. The bottom line is you have a lot of great baseball fans, and they've got a lot of dirt underneath their cleats, if you will. So let's just enjoy the game every day like we do with life, Towny. You know, it presents us with something different, and sometimes things we can't even accept. That's reality, and you can't plan for those things. So the one thing that's for sure is this is going to be exciting. These people that have not got a chance to go up to Sacramento are going to get a chance to see the A's down here against San Francisco. And no matter what, it's green and yellow against orange and black.
And both teams are struggling.
Well, yeah, no. The Giants are in a tough division.
Giants have lost 5 of 6.
Yeah.
Their starting pitchers haven't been very good. And the A's, let's face it, it's been a Seattle, New York, and Los Angeles was a tough stretch.
Yeah, but are you listening to where that stretch and where that journey came from, and to end it against the Dodgers after you've played the Yankees, have you played the Brewers? I don't think there's any team in baseball that's more battle tested than the young A's are right now. And I think if they were a veteran team, a little more advanced, had a little more experience, they probably would have handled it a little differently. They might even be leading the division. But to be standing where they are right now after getting beat up, bullpen tired, starters. I mean, Bido got sent out today. I mean, this was a guy that we thought was going to be part of our rotation for, extended period of time, but that's just the way it goes. Next man up. We'll hope the guy that got called up, he'll be ready to take the ball and run with it. But, man, it's 162 seasons. I mean, I haven't even got the starch out of my shirts yet. I mean, we've got a long way to go, and you just want to stay in it. You want to stay healthy. It's tough. Guys have tired arms and not so much hurt arms or sore arms. A lot of guys are tired and they don't know what it's like to pitch with tired arms or perform when you're not at your best. So these are the things that you learn along these way, and we'll see what happens, Tony.
Cody, what are the moves?
So earlier today, we said the Athletics sent on Osvaldo Bido, and they DFA'd Jason Alexander. And I'm looking for here it is. Sorry. Looking for the media release. And Matt Crook and right-hander Anthony Maldonado have been called up from AAA Las Vegas. So Osvaldo Bido to Las Vegas, Jason Alexander DFA'd, and then coming up, Matt Crook, a left-hander, and right-hander Anthony Maldonado from Las Vegas.
God, isn't it amazing how seasons evolve? Last year, Bido pitched his way in, and Bido's going to be one of the dudes, and he's already back in Las Vegas.
Joey Estes, he'll join him down there in Las Vegas, and those are
JT Ginn is going to be back.
Well, the other guys we called up are not household names. I mean, these are not but like I said before, next man up. And I think that's something that you have to give the A's a lot of credit for, even though you're not getting the results that you think that we probably should get, to be able to have bodies, to be able to have people that can come up here and perform and not embarrass themselves at this level. Because sometimes you look at guys that get called up from AAA. I see them all day, every day, all day long, and that's what they are, AAA guys. Not good enough to pitch at the big leagues, but good enough to give you some coverage down at AAA. So you want to think that these guys will hope that they can come up here and perform.
You kind of knew with Alexander the way he was wearing it yesterday against the Dodgers, but JP Sears got to be big tonight. Logan Webb's going to go for the Giants, and the Athletics. It is amazing. What is this game? 23 against the National League. 23 games against the National League already.
It prepares you for the future. I mean, you don't win
for the National League.
No, but as you get further down the road, you're going to have to play everybody now. You might as well get it out the way. I mean, get it out the way now. If you're 500 in sports, you're in it. So
no doubt, 22-22. We can keep. Yesterday was rough, right? We did the post game on NBC, also here on A's Cast. It was rough. 19-2 is rough. Last couple of days against the Dodgers, but yeah, when you look at perspective, you're still 22-22.
You probably don't want to hear it, but humble pie is good for everybody. These guys were probably digging themselves a little bit too much. Hey, we went up against the Yankees. Could have won those games. What are you talking about? We beat
the Mariners.
Beat the Dodgers first game. Got a chance to win the series. Whoa, hold it. Pump the brakes a little bit.
Shohei Ohtani.
Oh my God. So they got a chance to see it. So it's pretty good for the A's. They come into San Francisco, a team that's struggling, as you say. There's some familiarity, got some of their homies over there. They'd like to, put a couple of L's on Bob Melvin, let him know what he left over there. So there's a lot to look forward to, man. I'm looking forward to this series.
And since it's rivalry week, we got to talk about the 1989 World Series where the Athletics would sweep the San Francisco Giants. Earlier today, we caught up with an all-time great. He's an A's Hall of Famer. He was the captain of the 1989 team. Here's our old friend, Carney Lansford. To have on one of the great Athletics of all time, A's Hall of Famer. You look at his career, a World Series champion, a batting champion, an all-star. He's from the Bay Area, grew up in San Jose, and also a combatant of yours, Shooty. You guys are rivals, one of the rivals down there at Fantasy Camp. The great Carney Lansford is with us. Carney, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Nice to see you.
Well, we were talking to Dave Stewart yesterday, your teammate, and he was mentioning how you were his favorite teammate of all time because of just who you were as a captain and who you were a leader. And now that they're calling this a rivalry weekend with the A's taking on the Giants, we wanted to go back and look at 1989 and what that team meant to the A's, to you, your teammates, the A's family. Just reminisce with us about how special that was. And, of course, one of the great baseball teams of all time. And you were the leader of that team.
Well, Chris, the interesting thing about that year is in spring training, Sandy Alderson and Towny scheduled a ton of games against the Giants because Towny had, he felt like we might face those guys in the postseason. So we played a lot of games against them, and they didn't beat us once, not once. And so we were finally at their place, and they were beating us, and Towny took out all the starters and put in the extra guys. And I think it was Al Rosen at the time was like, yeah, we're finally going to beat these guys. Well, our guys started coming back, and we ended up beating them. So so when we went into the World Series, we knew they didn't have a chance against us.
Carney, so much is talked about guys who should be anointed captains on a team or they should wear the C. Dave Stewart was talking about how you kept that team as tight as gorilla snot over there. And is that a trait that has always been a part of you no matter where you were coming up? Or is this something that just materialized or matriculated as you got older and just became a much more vocal player?
Shooty, when I first got to the A's in '83, Dwayne Murphy was the captain of the A's at the time under Billy Martin. And, I played on some pretty good teams with the California Angels back in the day and the Boston Red Sox. We had some great players there, Jim Rice, Dewey Evans, Carl Yastrzemski. We had Baylor and Rudy and Gritch and Nolan Ryan, Tanana with the Angels. And when I got to the A's the first few years, we weren't very good. We just didn't have a lot of talent. But then they started acquiring guys in 86 or 87. And we started to look like a lot better team. And I know in 89, I remember thinking in 88, actually, we got Dave Parker was a huge leader with the outfielders on that team. We had Dave Hindu. We had a bunch of great players. Bobby Welch we acquired from the Dodgers. Rick Honeycutt. Eck was in the bullpen now as our closer. And I remember leaving the clubhouse the first day of spring training and looking around and thinking, yeah, we got a shot this year. And so, Dwayne Murphy and Michael Davis had been traded. And so there was kind of an opening for a captain there. So for me, Shooty has always been about, I felt like at that time it was my turn. And I'd been there 3 or 4 years. And so, I always felt like by being a captain, you got to set examples, So work ethic and stuff like that, that's more or less. And plus, I'll tell you what, I wanted to win a World Series so bad because my former teammate and like a big brother to me, Joe Rudy, lived not too far from me in Oregon. And I go over to his house and he had like 3 huge World Series trophies that I had to look at every time I went over there. So I was going to do whatever it took to get at least one of those. So he was my inspiration to push a lot of guys.
And somebody and somebody's got to keep the young guys in line. Stu was telling us yesterday that you had this great talent, and Jose Canseco, he was coming up, but someone had to keep him in line, and you were the guy. And we see that so much in baseball now because we have so many players coming up. Shooty's talked a lot about it where we have these players that maybe should have spent a little more time in the minor leagues, but they don't. So just when you look back on it, when the young players were coming up, how you were like, hey, someone's got to make sure they're doing it the right way for you guys to get where you needed to go.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, just like I said, by leading by example and letting them know that, hey, we're all business here. We got what we need to win, and we're not going to accept losing. So, Tony's biggest thing was winning series. Win the series. If you're playing a 3-game series, win 2 or 3. And, and sometimes you win the first 2, then get greedy and go for the third one and go for the sweep. So that's kind of how we played that year is we try to get the first 2 games or at least win the series. And when we did have a chance to sweep, then we got greedy. So, I mean, that's how you put together a winning season like that.
I've been talking to Towny the past few days about, players, good players. I don't care what sport it is. They all have their own move, and whatever that move is, that's what allowed you. I mean, killer crossover, guys that could hit hand-eye, bat to ball, whatever the case may be. When we look at Jake Wilson, and I don't know how much you've seen of him, but a lot of people compare him to Carney Lansford, and the reason why is because of his trigger and his load. I've always said that's unique, but it's special because it's different. You were similar to that, Carney's. Was that something that you developed, or that was just a natural thing for you? Because hitters come out hitting. When mama say his name is Carney, you were swinging that pole.
Well, Dave Henderson and I had a little saying. It was like, thou shalt not let gas pass without taking a swing. So I was pretty aggressive. As you know, I was aggressive hitter. And I wasn't a big believer in hit with 2 strikes all the time because facing major league pitchers, as you know, is tough enough. It's really difficult when you're 0-2 or 1-2 all the time. They got you where they want you. So, when I got to Boston, Joe Rudy actually set me up with the hitting coach there, Walt Reniak, who was a disciple of Charlie Lau. And he, my first 3 years in the big league with the Angels, I just went up, saw a ball, hit ball. I didn't know how to hit the ball to right field. If I hit it to right field, by accident. But he taught me how to use the whole field. And that's the year I won the batting title. And so that was huge. He actually taught me how to use the whole field. Nobody had ever really worked with me, before that. So I have to give Walt a lot of credit for my success after that.
It's so interesting how you talk about that, Carney. I mean, you were one of the great hitters of your time, and then you became a hitting coach yourself, and you've taught hitting for many, many years. And it's just we're seeing it with Jacob Wilson. He can go foul pole to foul pole. You were able to do it. Not everybody's able to do it. Why is it so hard to teach it and accomplish it?
We get that somebody that's been through it and has seen it and knows it works. And there's ways in the cage. It starts in the batting cage for me with soft toss. I was a soft toss guy, 98 out of 100 games. We had a lot of 12, 15 games back in the day at the Coliseum. So, again, it goes back to work habits. It's like you learn how to do it in the cage, and then it becomes natural on the field. Batting practice. I'm going to use the example of Joe Rudy. I remember when I was in AA ball in El Paso, and the Angels big team came and played an exhibition game there. And the big team was taking batting practice, and one of the guys on our team says, look at Joe Rudy. Watch how he takes batting practice. And he started out by hitting the ball to right field and then hitting some balls and then moving the ball around. Like, that's the proper way to take BP. And so from then on, that's what I try to pretty much do is, especially when I got to Boston, I try to use the whole field in batting practice because that's what I want to do in a game. So I haven't seen the shortstop play yet, but sounds like a pretty darn good player from what I hear. So I'll pay attention to him.
Yeah.
You look at your baseball card, you don't need us to get on your hype team. I mean, it speaks for itself. But to hear you say how you dislike hitting with 2 strikes and for you to have to do it so many times hitting behind the greatest leadoff hitter of all time even speaks more volume how good you were as a hitter. At any point or any time that you and Ricky get together about, even though you didn't like hitting with 2 strikes, you sacrificed yourself a lot to let Ricky run up the numbers that he did, Carney.
Yeah, and thank you, Walt Reniak, for teaching me how to do that. But you're right, Shooty. When I first got to the A's, we didn't really talk that much about, base stealing and taking pitches and all that stuff. But when he came back to us, I think it was 89. He came back to us, and I got him right away the first day, and I said, "Look, Rick, man, we need to communicate better than we did the first time you were here when I first came over." I said, maybe you can give me a sign or something when you know you're going to steal, and I can take the pitch for you. And I said, there's some guys out there that I can't give 2 strikes to. I need 3 swings. But there's some guys I feel really comfortable with that I can give him 2 strikes and still feel confident that I can put the ball in play with, with something on it. So he did. He just said, hey, look, when I'm on first base, if you see me pick the side of my pants with my finger, I'm going that pitch. And so from then on, that's what happened. And we never had a problem. Everything worked out great. But, we talk about having to hit behind him. Most difficult thing in sports, hitting behind Ricky Henderson, by the way. And Dwayne Murphy did a great job when he had to do it.
Yes, he did.
But, I in '89, I ended up hitting 336. So when I'm coaching with the Rockies, I'm hitting coach. Somebody sent me a card to sign, and one on the back, it had that, I had like 500 and something at bats and only struck out like 30 times or something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show these guys. I'm hitting behind Ricky Henderson, and I still hit 336 with 20-something or 30-something strikeouts in 500, almost 600 at bats. So I'm showing guys like Todd Helton, who's a Hall of Famer, by the way, and Troy Tulowitzki, these guys, Carlos Gonzalez, showing all these guys, it can be done, man. You can be unselfish and still get your knocks and put together a nice season. But if you want to win a World Series, those are things you have to do, the little things, as you well know, Shooty.
Absolutely.
Well, Jacob Wilson's hitting 347, and we hear people worried about how much he walks. Are you worrying about how much a guy walks if he's hitting 347?
Absolutely not. That's where he's better than I was, because I didn't walk a lot. I'm too busy slashing up there.
He's the same thing, Carney. This kid is up there. He is swinging. He's going to hack in, and I know everybody wants walks in this era of baseball, but that's where we talk. He's so much like you. I mean, if he sees it and he thinks he can put a barrel on it, he's swinging.
Well, that's where you got to be. Like I said, tough trying to make a living with 2 strikes at the major league level.
Well, one thing.
So good for him.
One thing for sure, Carney, the game is changing. It will change with us or without us. But I would love to see more guys that have had the success like you, having more of an impact on just the mindset for young hitters, spending more time around these guys, because I don't discount the analytical part, but I just think there are some things that you just can't teach. I watched Jimmy Rollins as a high school player at Encinal High School, and my supervisor came in there and told me after a workout, he just said, hey, look here, back where I'm from, we throw those kind back. And it was because he could not appreciate the things that he did inside the game that weren't analytically proven. And to hear the things that you say, especially like Dwayne Murphy, a guy that was a power hitter. Okay, this guy, he had more target. He swings a 2-iron still on the golf course. He's 70 years old. So it just lets you know how much he liked to let that thing go. So, man, man, we're so fortunate. The last 3 days, man, we've had super A's, former players. I mean, your teammates, Hall of Famers, Raleigh, Joe Rudy. I mean, what they're doing here with A's Cast, man, and a platform that we are allowed to talk to you guys now and get more in depth of what you're doing now and how things happened in the past. Man, we thank you so much for spending your time with us, Carney, because I know there's a lot of people grabbing at you, man, but it's a lot of people want to hear what you have to say, man.
Well, one more thing, if I can, if you've got time.
Oh, yeah,
I just want to make one thing clear. Yeah, Tony called me the captain, but Stu was also the captain of the pitchers. He took care of the pitchers. I took care of the infielders, and Dave Henderson and Dave Parker took care of the outfielders. So I give those guys as much credit as you guys are giving me.
So Joe Rudy Thursday night went into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame.
Right.
Raleigh Fingers introduced him, and we were just talking to Joe the other day about just how amazing it was that time in the 70s, where you have the A's winning 3 World Series, the Warriors and Rick Barry would win a title, the Raiders would win a Super Bowl. You still had Willie Mays and McCovey and Marichal and Perry and all the great Giants over in San Francisco. Niners were going to get good with Bill Walsh in Montana a little bit later, but in the 70s, and you were growing up in San Jose, you got to watch all this.
Yeah, I did. I was a huge A's fan. I sat out in those left field bleachers many a day when there's only like 300 or 400 people in the stands for the game back in the Charlie Finley days. But, tell you a quick story. When we were a senior in high school, we had baseball practice. Our center fielder comes up to me and goes, hey, you want to go to the A's game tonight? It was opening night at the Coliseum. I said, we can't get tickets to the A's game. You guys are back-to-back world champions. He goes, trust me, we can sit in just about any seat we want. So we ended up going there. There was like 300 or 400 people in the stands. It was a joke, really.
But an amazing time, all those guys that you got to see play.
I saw all those guys. Sal Bando is actually one of my big-time idols. Captain Sal, from back in the day. I used to love watching him. Campy, I got the opportunity to play with Campy. Got the opportunity again to play with Joe, Don Baylor. So yeah, Reggie, played with Reggie. I mean, those guys are just idols to me, all of them. They were so good.
Yeah, and in the end, to think that you would get your World Series, you'd do it with the team that you grew up watching. I mean, how well over 20-something thousand players have played in this game of baseball, and so many guys never even get a chance to play in the postseason, let alone the World Series. And then you get to win the World Series for the team you grew up rooting for.
Yeah, it was awesome. One of the things that really motivated me was the fact that I watched those guys win 3 World Series in a row. And so I wanted to help be a part of getting that team back, the respect back to that organization. So, yeah, I think we accomplished that in the late 80s and early 90s.
No, I was just going to elaborate it on a little bit. And you also got a chance to play with one of the greatest postseason performers in the history of the game, and our beloved brother Dave Henderson as well. What was that like, Carney?
It was awesome. Dave was awesome. You look back at the '89 World Series. There was like 3 or 4 of us that had a chance to win that MVP of that World Series. And I watched that, not too long ago. Like they showed it again on TV. I don't think Ricky made an out the entire World Series. Every time I looked up, he's on base and he's stealing another base. Hendu had that awesome series. Stu, obviously, with the 2 wins that he had. So, and that was my best World Series, was the '89 World Series. So I kind of thought I had a shot there too. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. Bring that pride back and win it for the Oakland fans and the Bay Area fans.
Well, I tell you, when we had Raleigh Fingers on yesterday, we were talking about, when I was able to do that interview with Raleigh down at Fantasy Camp, and all you great former A's are there, and how you guys put it on. We'll bring it back again this next offseason, but obviously you two are 2 of the managers down there, and I know how much Fantasy Camp means to both of you to not only be with your buddy Terry and all the other great former A's, but just to get around the fans who always appreciate you so much. So I can't wait for us to get that back.
Yeah, we really look forward to that Fantasy Camp thing. I just got to tell the fans, if you get a chance, you got to come out. It's a great time for a week. And Shooty and Dallas Braden do an incredible job with leading that camp. So they're funny as heck. I leave the park in the morning with a stomach ache all the time because I'm laughing so hard. But they do great. We'd have a great time if you come out there. We'd love to see you there.
Well, Tony Phillips used to tell me, and I was telling how much I was envious of the run that he had with you guys. And he told me, shoot, them dudes made me eat real good. He said, my job was to keep them laughing and keep them happy. And they said they would do the rest for me. And they definitely took care of them for sure. Man.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Carney, always great catching up. We really appreciate the time. I mean, obviously you're one of the great A's of all time. And as an A's Hall of Famer and ambassador, it means a lot to us. So you be well. We'll check in later on this season.
All right, guys. Always great talking to you anytime. Love to do it.
When it comes to knocking it out of the park, nobody beats Folsom Lake Ford. Folsom Lake Ford is a 7-time Triple Crown Award winner, Ford Motor Company's highest honor, for being the best in customer satisfaction in sales, service, and finance. Step up to the plate for our biggest selection of new Ford models, including the legendary F-150, on sale now. Shop Folsom Lake Ford, your truck headquarters in the Folsom Auto Mall. FolsomLakeFord.com.
That ball is out of here.
Become an A's insider today. Visit athletics.com/newsletter and sign up to receive the latest team highlights, up-to-date news, features, and more, all delivered free to your inbox. That's athletics.com/newsletter.
Jacob Wilson sat down with Chris Townsend to share why the A's clubhouse believes they can win right now.
I think that we were talking about that in spring training, being able to, obviously we had some great signings that, great players come in, be able to lead the clubhouse, and then some extensions that we had, with the guys who called out last year. And, I think in spring training we were talking about this is something we're excited for, and to be able to see it coming into full effect right now it's great, but it is a long season, so we got to keep working every day and keep trying to go out there and get those wins.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Unlock offers and receive exclusive in-game features by downloading the MLB Ballpark app for iPhone and Android today. Plus, get the latest information on game time, schedules, and more.
Athletics reliever Hogan Harris joined Chris Townsend on A's Cast Live to break down challenges and adjustments required when transitioning between starting and coming out of the bullpen.
I'd say the biggest thing is there is still a routine. The difference is it's at 3 p.m. For a 7 o'clock game instead of right before the game. Like for me personally, I like to just go in, usually an hour before stretch or so, and then go get my body moving in the weight room, things like that. Get a crossword in, just kind of relax. Because at a certain point, that is kind of the fun part about the bullpen though, is that you never know. You really can't overthink it. You simply they're like, hey, you're in. I'm like, oh, all right, there we go. So you don't have time to overthink, you just kind of got to trust that, whatever you scouted for these guys, that's what it is. And then you just go in, and that is also a good thing. You're facing the guy once, maybe twice, instead of 3, maybe 4 times.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast. Calling all college and grad students. Grab your friends and head to the ballpark with this special offer. Save up to 50% off select regular season games throughout the 2025 season. Get your discounted tickets at athletics.com/student.
Streaming from NBC Sports, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
Cody Elias, Chris Townsend, Shooty Babitt here with you from NBC Sports.
Dream team.
I know. I mean, this has been fun, the three of us doing it this week. But let's pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on A's Cast. So it was good to catch up with Carney Lansford, talk about the 1989 World Series, a little about Jacob Wilson. I do have something we can play, though, tying into rivalry weekend with the Giants and A's. We have the final out of the 1989 World Series, not without Michaels, both Lon Simmons on the call.
Over to Eckersley.
Swung on bounce, off McGuire's glove. Phillips has it, throws to Eckersley in time. Another great play by Tony Phillips. And the A's have won the world.
For the National League champion Giants, sadness and some reflection. For the world champion Oakland A's, redemption, as they secured what they had missed out on just a year prior.
Okay, I was wrong. Lon Simmons, and there was some Al Michaels in that call, but it's great to always get a chance to see those highlights here. Bob Costas. I mean, it was great. It's great that anytime you can hear these legendary voices, just from the Bay Area, but also nationally, Costas and Al Michaels, it's always great. So, rivalry weekend. Here we are.
Dennis Eckersley has talked to us about what that, after blowing it and giving up that home run to that, was one of the biggest home runs in the history of the game to Kirk Gibson, what that moment meant for him right there closing it out.
Yeah, just thinking about those times. My buddy Mike Davis, who's my best friend, the first guy I met in pro baseball when I left Oakland, stole a base before Gibson hit that home run. You think about that 89 team, the great teams, you can go around and name every player at every position. And I'm not very good at that if you ask me about some other teams, but that Oakland A's team, when you talk about Carney, Walt Wise, Mike Gallego, Mark McGuire, Canseco, Dave Henderson, Ricky, Stan Javier, Terry Steinbach, man, and the pitching staff. I mean, it was just incredible. I mean, Carney talked about the MVP of the World Series being Stu, and it's always been some jokes because Ricky definitely thought he should have had it, but Carney had a great World Series also, and that just goes to tell you or show you how great a team that was.
I believe Ricky in Game 4, didn't Ricky have a leadoff home run in that game? I mean, Ricky was great that postseason. That was October of 89, so I would have been 11 months old when it happened, so I can't tell you I went back and watched the tape, but where were you guys at when that World Series was going on? And also, everyone remembers the earthquake, so where were you guys at in 1989 when this was going on?
Well, my playing career had ended in 87, so I was working a real job. I was working in a family business. Actually, I was at the counter collecting some money, and the next thing you know, I'm doing the Bernie League, and I see the street out front doing this, and my customer, we're looking at each other, and we knew it was bad. It happened so quickly, but we didn't know the magnitude of it. And once you start getting all the reports, everything that had happened, and because I was closing actually, so I can get home to see the World Series. We were late. We had a good day that day at the job, and how things got turned upside down. How about you? Were you born yet, Tony?
No, I wasn't born yet. I was a junior in high school, and I remember Crawford High School in San Diego. Everybody was fired up because it was a very popular California World Series, right? And I liked the A's growing up. My grandfather managed the A's. I have the family history with the A's. So, and then, they were the best team in baseball, and I hated the Giants. So I remember high school baseball practice, got home, and there was no World Series on. It was just showing fires, right? Even though the epicenter was more like Watsonville, what people need to remember is all the media was here for the World Series. So they were showing all of San Francisco to where actually the epicenter was even, down more south. But yeah, I was a junior in high school. I'll never forget that.
I believe it was Tim McCarver told us years ago on the show that during that whole series, because he was obviously doing TV, but Johnny Bench was doing radio, and Johnny Bench thought about jumping out of the window. It
was a little out of hand.
Yeah, it was like whoa,
Johnny.
And when you took, well, I made me think when you mentioned the national, when you mentioned the national media, but going back and seeing all the footage and what it meant to the Bay Area and a lot of A's fans for them to win the World Series, it was pretty impactful. And then looking back at it now, was this 36 years later since the 89 World Series?
Well, I would arrive in the Bay Area just after that, basically, right? To come here and play ball at San Jose State. And just the dynamic always of Oakland and San Francisco, learning about it through all the years, now lived it all these years, having worked in both cities, where the A's were at that time, which was seen as the beautiful ballpark. Giants were at Candlestick, which was a dump. And now how things have changed so much. As Pac-Bell Park would open up, Giants almost leave. Well, first Giants tried to go to San Jose twice, lost the vote. A lot of our young fans don't even know that. That's how the whole territorial rights thing started. And the Giants wanted to go to San Jose, just like the 49ers did, and Sharks ended up, and the A's tried to get to San Jose. Well, they were halfway, they had one foot out the door to St. Petersburg, Florida. There would have been no Rays. They would have been the St. Pete Giants. Peter McGowan saves them with Larry Bear in that group. Peter McGowan was the main guy for Safeway, saves them. They build Pac-Bell Park, and kind of really so much has changed in Bay Area sports history, including the dynamic between the Athletics and the Giants.
Well, my connection to the Giants, it was the best thing that could have happened, because as a scout at that time, I can remember some cold nights down there, Candlestick, sitting there with not many people there and wind blowing, and not very fun to scout a game there. And then Pac-Bell opens up, and Barry Bonds and everything that happened, and still to this day, that ballpark is the most beautiful ballpark in the country. And I've had the privilege of being in all of them, and just going up top and just looking at the Bay Area and just look at the site that it has to offer from the upper deck is just simply incredible. And a day game in San Francisco at the ballpark doesn't get much better than that.
I'll disagree with you just because I grew up right outside of Pittsburgh, and PNC Park is great, but I do like Oracle Park. I'm actually going to the game tonight. My wife bought tickets, so I'm going to head over there, and I can be boots on the ground for the show and let you guys know how everything's going over there. With you guys were mentioning the fans.
I'm curious what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I can text you guys an update on how.
I'd like to see you do a show from the press area up at that yard, and tell me if that's one of your favorite places.
Oh, we did it. We did it 2 years ago. We did A's Cast Live. I was in Pittsburgh at PNC. It's high up there.
It's way
now we sound like Korak on the radio broadcast complaining about how high the press boxes are.
Keeping it real. You got to come up with a better one than that if you're going to displace this place over here, man. I mean, it is just simply breathtaking on a beautiful day. And that park there, I mean, with the river out there out front, walking the bridges, you can come from both bridges to get there. It is, the ambiance is around it, but inside, whew, I don't know. Have you been to both, Towny?
I'm a big, I have to call it Safeco. T-Mobile. I'm a big Seattle fan.
Really?
Yeah, I think Seattle.
That's a good park too. I like
beautiful.
Petco's nice too.
Depends on the time of the year there.
And sneaky good, Target Field in Minnesota.
I've been there
last year. Called the game there last year. Real nice,
isn't it? I mean, the way you walk up and it's Kirby Puckett and I mean, it's like they did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely, no question.
Do you want me to grab Kontos?
Yeah, let's get Kontos.
All right, let me go grab him.
Did you know George Kontos was our first ever video interview here on A's Cast Live?
No.
Because, of course, we started as an audio platform, and then we turned it into a video platform. So the very first time. All right. So it was interesting to have a former Giant, World Series champion, was our first ever video interview.
Huh. What sparked you to have him on the A's?
It was Giants A's.
It was Giants A's. Oh, okay. George is a bad dude, man. Fierce competitor. There. Speaking of the devil, come on in, soul brother. Once a year. Once a year, you need dinner at this table. Come on.
The World Series champion is joining us.
The World Series champion, the one and only.
I was just telling the story. It was years ago, and to think like where A's Cast has come from, as we now do the NBC pre and post game show. You were our first ever video interview. We started as an audio platform. It was Giants A's. You were our first ever video guest.
I remember that. That was great. Did I do it it was on Skype or Zoom or whatever, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I remember that. That was a lot of fun. Glad to be.
Boy, how things have changed.
Yeah, right.
So what's going on in the Giants world these days?
Things are good. I think everybody is kind of exactly where they need to be, other than the offense. Pitching is doing what they're doing. Best bullpen in the big leagues. Starting rotation is doing fantastic. The offense just hasn't really started to kick it on all cylinders yet. And I think when they do, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in this NL West.
We were talking about, my experience in this rivalry. And what I remember more than anything else is meeting Joe Morgan for the first time because he was playing for the Giants. How about you, George? I know it's been some exciting matchups against the A's. Anything jump out at you that?
Well, what I do remember just as a general kind of thought is the A's always played grindy, gritty baseball. Always. Whenever we were either at the Coliseum or they came across the bay to AT&T, now Oracle, it was always just you could never let your guard down, whether they were doing really, really well some of those early years when I got to the bay or even the years that they were kind of an off team and not going in the direction that they wanted to. They always played really hard-nosed, gritty baseball. For me personally, I was pitching one time in Oakland and I was facing Cespedes and Cespedes and the third baseman, bringer of rain. What was his name again? I'm drawing.
Donaldson.
Josh Donaldson. I just had a really bad inning against those two guys. Donaldson took me off the wall to right field. Cespedes hit a double. I gave up a grand slam to Marcus Semien. So I've had some rough outings in Oakland, but just goes to show just how good of a baseball team and how fundamentally sound they could play the game.
Do you like this whole we're building up the rivalry thing? Obviously, you're an Illinois guy. You could look at, White Sox and Cubs. That's always a big deal. You had your time with the Yankees. Yankees Mets are playing as we speak right now. Do you like the buildup of this as a former player?
I do. I think that whenever you're fortunate to have, and I know we don't have it anymore per se here, but two teams kind of representing one market, I think it's great when you have a rivalry there. I mean, the Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox rivalry, maybe not anymore because of how the White Sox have slipped a little bit as an organization, but it was always incredibly fun. The Yankees Mets rivalry, those New York fans, you're one or the other. There's no middle ground at all, and there's no love lost between those fans. And I think that's so great for your market and for your city. And it's really nice that the Giants and the A's have been able to go back and forth with the rivalry that we've had. It was the Bay Bridge, Battle of the Bay Bridge series, all those things. It's something really fun for the fans to look forward to in the same media market.
Bob Melvin was a great manager for the A's, a player's manager, if you will. For some reason, he was able to get these young players to buy into the culture very easily. What have you experienced to see the change that Bob Melvin has been able to have as far as an impact on the Giants roster over there?
So it's really interesting. Bob Melvin, I think third most wins as an active manager behind Tito, I believe, and Boch.
By the way, he's number one all time for the A's.
For the A's. So he's a guy who's been doing it a long time. And the most important thing, at least in my opinion, of a manager is not necessarily calling the baseball moves, because you have a lot of people that can do that and make baseball decisions. But the person who's managing your ball club has to understand how to get everybody to be a cohesive unit and how to get each individual player to give them what they need. Sometimes you need tough love on guys. Some guys need a pat on the back. And he's that type of guy. He's a player's guy, just like Boch was. And I think when we had that intermediate few years, I don't think we had that here as an organization. I think things were a little bit by the book. And it was a very, very much of a breath of fresh air when Bomel came in and took the helm. And I think people were very appreciative of the type of manager that he is. And then even going further, when you have the trickle-down effect from the front office and the new front office now with Buster, all of those guys, meaning, Bomel and Buster in the front office, everyone pulls in the same direction, and the players very much understand what direction that is. They're kept in the loop. They know what the expectations are. They know what they have to do. So it's been really, really nice having Bomel. I'm a guy that loves old school managers. I played for several in Girardi and played for Tito. Obviously, I played for Boch for a very, very long time. And I think that's just incredibly important to your team in general when you're trying to make some of these long seasons turn into something special in October.
Yeah, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but, we can talk about Melvin. His biggest strength is communication, right? And that was one of the biggest strengths about Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
I mean, still why Mark Kotsay and Bruce Bochy are best of friends. It's the communication Bochy always had, Melvin has. Talk about that, because it seems like when we talked about the regime before, there wasn't a whole lot of that communication. We can say we're all pulling on the same rope. Now it seems with Buster and Bob, both former catchers, get along real well.
Yep.
Everybody's rowing in the same direction.
100%. I can give you an example just of what my experience was, for example, with Bruce Bochy. If I had an outing that didn't go well, or back-to-back outings that didn't go well, and I'd be walking out, Boch was very, very aware of everything going on in his clubhouse. He'd watch guys come in, come out. And if I had a rough day, he'd be like, Georgie, and he'd call me in. He'd be like, hey, you're going to be out there tomorrow. We're going to get you right back on the hill. We got to get you right. I was one of those guys that I was kind of hard on myself. So to have the manager come in and be like, hey, I'm going to put you right back on the horse tomorrow. You're going to get this thing back right. And he would. And he'd put me in a situation. And if it was the 7th or the 8th where I struggled, he'd put me in the 6th with guys on base and getting out of a big jam to get you back on the hill, or back on in the right frame of mind. So that kind of communication, just having a good understanding of who you're dealing with and what each player needs to do is what makes a manager just a good manager, I think.
And George, for me, I've always felt of late, we need more grown men managing young men.
Yeah.
And not just to teach them the game on the field, but the game of life.
100%.
And when you have a manager like that, a player, he doesn't want to underperform for the simple fact that he doesn't want to disappoint the manager that's in charge, because he's shown that type of confidence in that young player. You feel me there? You with me there?
No, I totally agree. I think that there's absolutely an expectation that you want to perform well, not only for yourself, but for your teammates and for your manager. You want to be treated with respect, and you don't want to be treated like you're a little kid out there, and you're like, you want to be treated like a man. And I thought that's a really nice way of saying it. You're a men leading younger men, and I think that's a great way of putting it.
We just saw the Dodgers. Obviously, it's a historic run. It's unbelievable. 11 out of 12 win the division, couple World Series titles. It's just, someone made this point, and as a Giant, a guy who won a World Series, you remember what that run was like. Is it amazing to you how much the Dodgers have forced everybody in the West to be better? If you don't get better at all the little things, because I mean, they feel like they have multiple rosters. Like they could have multiple rosters that could be competing in baseball,
which they do.
Yeah, right. I mean, you keep saying. So they put San Diego, San Francisco, Arizona on notice. You don't get better, you're going to get dragged. Talked about what's that like? How the Dodgers have just forced everybody to up their game.
What I'm about to say might be a slight hot take for Giants fans to hear, if any are watching, but I think what the Dodgers have done is great. They've gone and they've spent money to put a good product on the field. And the one thing that I will disagree with, and I would imagine at some point it'll be changed in the next CBA or whatever, the amount of deferred money, I think they definitely lived in the gray area there, and they did something that was within the rules. even though I disagree with how much of it was done, they could do it. That's a loophole that'll be changed. But they're proving that you're going to spend money. You're going to have a really good team. You're going to be a force to contend with. Are they guaranteed to make it to the World Series or win the World Series? Absolutely not. But they are guaranteed to have a really good team and have the fan base be really excited to support this team, not only this year, but next year and the year after, because they're bringing in good players who are going to be in the lineup every day, and you know who you're going to see. And I think that's a really good recipe for success as an organization, for a fan base, and for just winning in general. And it doesn't guarantee you anything, doesn't guarantee you going to the postseason or winning a World Series or making it to the World Series. Our teams, for example, when you compared our roster on paper versus the guys that we were going up to play against, I'm not sure many people would have made us the favorites or bet on us to win. We did, and anything can happen in October. But when you put a quality team out on the field day in and day out by doing the thing, I mean, it's almost like the Yankees of back in the day that they're doing now. I think it's so good for baseball what they're doing, because they're forcing everybody else, as you said, Towny, to level up. And you got to play good baseball, and you got to put good people on the field to try and contend.
I'd like to see them change it in the collective bargain, because back in 01, I was with Arizona and we won the World Series, and we were an expansion team in 96 and didn't start till 98. But Colangelo was spending everybody else's money and he was deferring that money.
Yeah.
So, and we won a World Series, and boy, 3 or 4 years later, they were talking about, and they're still trying to collect some of that bread. So it will be interesting. I mean, there's definitely a lot of strategy. And it's going to have to be, George, because everybody don't have the bread that the Dodgers do.
No, right.
I mean, and it's, I don't know, 2026, they say that these guys going to walk. It's a lot has to be worked out. I'd hate to see it happen, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, when you're talking about already a couple years before it happening, before this season started, that there was going to be kind of some not nice behavior being done between the two sides once this CBA expires, and you're talking about it 2 years in advance, it's going to be pretty contentious. But look, the game has always moved forward, and it will continue to do so.
The vision with Posey, how much has it just changed everything?
I think tremendously. Obviously, you know, the thing that is incredible about Buster is he was not, and still really isn't, a very loud, outspoken person. But when he talks, people listen. And when you have somebody like that running your organization, the respect that he commanded as a player, just by the way that he played the game, his actions, what he did, now that man's running your organization, you're coming in as a player without a word being spoken. You know what his expectations are, because he proved it as a player. He's the guy that was the MVP. He was the guy that was the batting champion. He, 3-time World Series champion, Rookie of the Year. We know all the accolades, but now when he's the guy that you're looking at, shaking his hand, being like, I want you to come play for the San Francisco Giants, there's nothing that needs to be said, but you know that expectation is there just because of what his resume was as a player. And you better believe he's going to be taking that same type of approach to run the organization, not only because it's his own personal pride, but he has a lot of pride for the city of San Francisco and for the organization of the San Francisco Giants, of what we've done and what he's done as a player. And that absolutely is carrying over to this side of the game for him.
Well, it's no secret why our former colleague Randy Wynn got a job with Buster, because sound just like Randy, man. I got a chance to scout him when he's at Santa Clara. Didn't say a whole lot, but just watch him, and his actions spoke volumes.
Yeah.
So quite a professional. You guys doing a great job over there, man. I'm happy. It's always good to have baseball people in the game, running the game, and bringing former players back, because we have so much to offer, man. And so glad to see you hooked up with those guys. It was a joy watching you with that run you guys had over there. I mean, you guys still don't have as many trophies as us, but you still got a few in a short period of time.
Yeah, we did. The golden years of this side of the Bay.
Absolutely, man.
But you know what, though? It's one of the cool things I think Larry Bear has done a very good job is like yourself and a lot of your relievers, because you guys were built on the bullpen, is to keep you guys involved. You know, I know you're a Chicago guy, but to make sure that guys like yourself are coming back. I think that's been big for the fan base.
It's been tremendous. I mean, I love coming back. You're right. I'm from Chicago. I'm born and raised there. That's where I live. But this is my second home. I love coming out. I get off the plane. I tell my wife all the time, I love landing in the Bay. It feels like home, number two. And to have guys that have had as much success as we did, our teams, always around, why would you not? I mean, I was fortunate to be drafted by the Yankees every spring training and around while I was in the major leagues with the Yankees. Those guys are around always. Reggie was around, Goose, Yogi when he was still with us. Those guys are always around. Why would you not want the people?
Wasn't that pretty incredible?
Why would you not want the people that help build your organization's history and reputation? Why would you not want them around? Because the current teams, you're not striving to be better than those guys. You're striving to attain and achieve the same things that we did. And when you are able to do those types of things, you're enshrined in organizational glory forever. Nobody could ever take that away from you. And there are several of us that have 3, a bunch of us would have 2, and then some guys have 1, but we won here, and we know what it goes into. We know what goes into winning championships with these types of clubs. And why would you not want guys like that around?
Who's the one Yankee where you went, oh, wow?
So a funny story. It's Derek Jeter, hands down. Derek Jeter for me. I made my debut in September of 2011. We were in Anaheim playing the Angels, and I came in kind of a mop up for my major league debut. CC started, gave up 6 runs. I came in the 7th, and I faced Peter Bourjos. First out, it was a fastball up. He popped it up in the infield. Jeter nestles under it. That was the end of that inning, the end of the 7th. I go in, my heart's beating through my chest, and Girardi, everybody's shaking my hand, patting me on the butt. He says, you're going back out there for the 8th to finish the game. And I sit down and put my hat and my glove just to my right here, trying to catch my breath and just take in the moment for a hot second. I'm officially a big leaguer. I have an ERA. And Derek Jeter comes and sits right next to me. And he puts that ball, my first out, he just slides it into my glove. And he pat me on the leg like that. And he goes, Georgie, welcome to the big leagues. He's like, I'm sure you've waited your whole life for this, and you've worked really hard to get here. He goes, this is the same game you've always played, just with more people in the stands, and the lights are a little brighter. He's like, congratulations, and enjoy the moment. Got up, went to the on-deck circle, grabbed his helmet and stuff, and hit second that inning. And in that moment, Derek Jeter would be the guy that I respect and admired more than anybody else in the game of baseball.
Wow.
Because he took the time to make a guy who has 14 seconds in the big leagues feel welcome and like I was part of that team.
That's a story.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool story.
Well, my 14 seconds in New York was a memory of walking on the field at batting practice. We go on the field for the first time. The Yankees are coming off, and I'm a rookie. I'm in the big leagues. I walk by Goose Gossett, just, hey, Goose, how you doing? And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Have a good broadcast tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We got the Mark Kotsay show next right here on A's Cast Live.
Real good.
Here's the pitch, and it's a hit. Folsom Lake Ford has stepped up again, winning the Triple Crown Award, Ford Motor Company's highest honor, now 7 years in a row. Folsom Lake Ford is a top sales leader in the U.S., along with being top in customer satisfaction in sales, service, and finance. Now that's a home run. Don't miss the huge savings on your favorite models at your truck headquarters. Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall.
A's catcher Shea Langoliers sat down with Towny on A's Cast Live to share the unique story behind his name.
My dad was a Mets fan growing up because my grandpa was a Yankees fan, so they had that natural going against each other. My dad was born in 1969, the 69 Mets. He graduated high school in 86, the 86 Mets. So he just kind of had that connection to him, and that's kind of how it happened.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
And here's the pitch to Tyler. Swung on, drilled to right, way back. Martini at the track. He will turn and watch it fly.
That swung on, drive to deep right field. Going back, Palacios, and it is gone.
2 payoff pitch, and Soderstrom launches this one to deep right. Taylor back, it is gone, and Soderstrom has done it again.
A's shortstop Jacob Wilson joined Towny on A's Cast Live to break down his approach at the plate with runners in scoring position.
I think I kind of just go up there and I trust my hand-eye coordination, be able to go up there, look for a strike, and knowing that if I swing, be able to put the ball in play, something that I work on a lot, and right there in those situations with 2 strikes, all you really got to do is put the ball in play and find a hole, and then good things can happen. Even right there, you hit a ball right at someone, they bobble it, the guy scores. Like you put the ball in play, you put pressure on the defense. So for me, it's just being able to put, obviously put the pressure on the defense and trying to find as many holes as I can, try and score runs. And, I love hitting the situations, love hitting the runners in scoring position. Anything I can do to, put runs on the board and overall win the game. It's kind of why we play the sport, is to get wins. And, last night one was pretty special.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Calling all college and grad students. Grab your friends and head to the ballpark with this special offer. Save up to 50% off select regular season games throughout the 2025 season. Get your discounted tickets at athletics.com/student.
A's Cast Live continues from NBC Sports. Here's Chris Townsend.
Well, for the next 10 minutes, one last time, Shooty Babitt and I, Cody Elias here on A's Cast Live. We'll carry it for the next 10 or so minutes before we throw to the Mark Kotsay show, brought to you by Folsom Lake Ford. We talk to Mark Kotsay every Friday, leading into every game. That was great to hear about. Kontos' big league moment was meeting Derek Jeter. Do you have what was your big league moment?
This is Bay Area Day, man. This is Bay Area weekend. It's good to have the Giants guys come in and tell some of their experiences about, especially Kontos, being in the middle of those World Series, man. But wow, I guess it's the first time playing in the Coliseum. It could be your first hit. My parents met the team in Minnesota. I got my first hit off of Jerry Kuzman. But I guess my most memorable moment, is my first at bat and the great voice of Richard Steele, calling my name, and my 60 relatives and friends and family up in right field bleachers. I think I told you before, they had drums and horns and tambourines and all kind of stuff. And to see my parents sitting up there and to be proud of me in that moment, I'll never forget that. But yeah, man, putting on that uniform, incredible, bro.
Yeah, no, obviously I don't have a big league story. Mine would be, I think, for just my career at working with the A's. Probably for me was when I did this show with Towny when he was in the Bay Area, he was in San Jose at home, and I was at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, and I got to do the show from there. And we had the then Pirates manager Derek Shelton come on with us. Their play-by-play broadcaster who I've known for years because obviously I went to college out there. That was like my big league. Obviously doing all the shows for years at the Coliseum and now doing it at the ballpark in West Sacramento, and our setup there is awesome. But that was by wow, I've made it in my career if I'm doing it from my hometown for a different team. But that was really cool. And I'll always cherish the memory of our boss, Delaire Lawars, letting me go to Pittsburgh and do it. I'm actually going in this year. It's gonna be a lot of fun going back there because nothing says late September baseball like A's Pirates at the end of the year in a little interleague play in September. The road trip, I believe, is Boston and Pittsburgh is the last two. So I'm going to Boston, and I've never been to Fenway, so getting to see that will be cool. This weekend, the A's will see old friend Justin Verlander.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Justin Verlander is the last guy we'll see ever coming close to 300 wins?
The way that the game is trending now, you would probably bet against it, but I can't see the game continuing on the way that it is because it's kind of tearing away from the fabric of the game. I think they're being trained like machines in which they're not made of metal, and that's why they're breaking down the way that they are. I just can't. How are you going to get 300 wins? How are you going to get 200 wins when it's a big story when guy goes 5 innings or 7 innings? I don't think we even have one complete game on our staff this year.
No, it's been I'm trying to think who the last guy that might have done it was. I remember a couple years ago, Bassett and Chris Bassett did it, and Sean Manaea did it, and it was like a big deal because no one's really done it since. I remember the Rays went years without a complete game. But you're right, that's the way the game has shifted. We praised 2 guys yesterday, Hunter Brown of the Astros and Jacob deGrom of the Rangers. They both went 8 innings. Now, technically, Brown got, I guess it was a complete game, but they both went 8 innings. You never see it anymore.
Well, just think about it. In order to get 300 wins, you're going to need to win either 30, 10 years in a row, or you're going to have to win 10 for 30 years.
Yeah, pretty much. The law of averages, if you want to break it down.
So I just don't see it happening. None. You just talked about a whole staff not having any.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're talking about one individual having 300 wins.
He has 262 wins. He's 38 away from it. He has a career 3.31 ERA. He has the almost an 81 WAR according to Baseball Reference. He has 3,456 strikeouts. That's 10th all time. 3 no-hitters. And I hate to do it to A's fans, but in the regular season, Justin Verlander is 17-8 with a 2.60 ERA, and then in the postseason, that's a whole different. He's 4-0. I mean, the guy just shoved in the postseason against the A's. Obviously, with Detroit in 2012, 2013, but we're looking at a guy that's, him, Scherzer. I mean, Kershaw's pitching this weekend. He'll return. These are guys we might not see again because the way the game's going. The next closest guy to wins, I think, is Garrett Cole, and he's like 150, something like that. I mean, you're right. The way the game has changed. We were just talking the other day about the Dodgers and their pitching philosophy and how we don't like bullpen games. What's the bullpen game worked out for them yesterday, but that's just the way the guys aren't trained to go deep into games anymore. It's max out 5 innings and see you later.
We had the conversation yesterday, and we were talking about what is going to be the criteria of guys getting into the Hall of Fame, especially pitchers. I mean, it's all about numbers. They used to talk about, Don Sutton was a borderline Hall of Famer, but if you looked at him, he had the years and he had the numbers. I think to take the bump every 5 days, to rack up innings every year says a lot about an individual and his availability. So, I mean, it will be interesting. I'm old fashioned. I'm an OG. I've seen what allowed guys in the past to sustain careers. Pitchers ran, pitchers threw. They didn't live in the weight room. They worked on their craft more than they did on their physique. They spent more time on the field than in the mirror. All of these protein shakes and all of this different dieting and all this stuff that they put in their bodies now is not showing the product on the field because guys are not as healthy or they don't sustain health as long as players did. And there's so much asked of them now, 162 games. Interesting. But to answer your question in short, no.
Yeah, it's a shame because, for me growing up, and you played against a lot of these guys and watched all these guys, you worked, you're around Greg Maddux, Tom Glav, and John Smoltz. For me, watching those guys, I always know Greg Maddux is one of my favorite pitchers of all time, 355 career wins. No one's even going to sniff that. Those are guys were like unicorns, essentially, anymore if you look at the way pitching is going now. And seeing guys like Verlander, Scherzer, and Kershaw, and now Greinke's now gone, but I think he gets into the Hall of Fame too. I think all those guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. The way the game's going, it's completely different. Now we're looking at guys that throw 100, it used to be if you threw 98, I mean, that's impressive. Now these guys are throwing it with ease. I mean, Mason Miller's throwing 103 coming out of the bullpen.
Not even 6 or 7 years ago, the average major league fastball was 90 to 92. Now it's 94 miles an hour. So 96, 97 is really nothing. If you don't have a go-to out pitch, if you don't have a signature pitch, if you don't have a move to go to get these guys out and they know it's coming, it's going to be hard to survive. And you cannot overpower the world. And just like you can't overpower the game, finesse is what has success. And I just see a lot of guys don't understand pitching. So many times I watch games every single day, 6 days out of a week. And it's such a pleasure and a joy to sit back behind the backstop and watch a game and afterwards go back home and write a report and say, it was awfully nice to watch the pitching performance of the guy that was on the bump today, because how he articulately just navigated through each at bat and through a lineup without a whole lot of stretch. And he was out there for 6 or 7 innings. That is the essence of watching a pitcher out on the mound. So I don't know what's going to get us back to that. I guess technology has enhanced the thinking of how guys prepare. But I know when I watch guys run pole to pole to pole to pole to pole to pole, after they get through pitching, they run pole to pole to pole to pole. It was because they were building up stamina. Because 4th and 5th inning, you're getting a little tired. Ball starts getting up if you're tired because your legs are tired and you can't finish, you can't get out front. That preparation allowed you to go deeper and allowed you to understand, well, I don't have to throw 92 to 94. I'm going to attack with 87 to 88. And when I need 94, I'll go and get it. So I'll keep these guys off balance. I won't be predictable. And before you know it, I've got quick pitch at bats. There's not a whole lot of predictability in my application. So I have an opportunity to get through the lineup 2 or 3 times. Now, if a guy goes 3 times through the lineup, it's like every pitch the manager, the pitching coach is scared to death because of what the stats say would happen the third time around.
The other day, I'm drawing a blank on who was on the mound for the A's in West Sacramento, and they're pitching deep into the game. And I remember seeing like, okay, he's at 99 pitches, he's at 100. I'm like, Kotsay's waiting at the top step. Oh, it's Jeffrey Springs. I'm like, and I think he ended up walking a guy or whatnot. And as the Kotsay's coming out, there goes Kotsay. I'm like, it's just how the game is now. Like you want to trust your guys to go through the order a third time. As soon as there's any sort of, a walk or your pitch count gets over hundreds, it's pure on panic. And that's what happened. That's what made Verlander so good for all those years was, he cruised through the first 5-6 innings, and inning 7, 8, he's thrown 98, 99. When guys are tiring out, he was like hitting his stride late in the game. And that's what made him so unique and will always make him unique. I know he's not the same guy now at age 42, but he's still having a decent year. Giants just aren't scoring any runs for him, so the A's will see them this weekend. Quickly, before we get to the Mark Kotsay show, the A's over the last six games have not been great pitching-wise. I mean, I went back and looked. 57 earned runs, that's a 9.87 ERA. They've given up 17 home runs, 37 extra base hits, and they've given around about an average of 9.67 runs per game. That's the most in baseball. You got JP Sears tonight, Luis Severino tomorrow, and then Sunday is Jeffrey Springs. Yeah, Jeffrey Springs. So you got your three guys. Hopefully these guys can get the team back on track heading into the homestand next week against the Angels and the Phillies.
My mom used to tell me you can hope in one hand and you can poo-poo in the other.
Yeah, my dad used to tell me that too.
And see which one get full fast. Hope ain't going to help you in this game. What's going to help you is your track record this year. They're battle-tested on the road. This is a road-ready team. They seem to perform better when they're away from their own confines. With JP Sears tonight on the mound for us, he's pitching in a pitcher's ballpark. Mm-hmm. Keeps the ball down in the zone. The Giants are not a team that hit a lot of home runs and shoot you out of the ballpark. So you're just going to have to make quality pitches. I think the most important thing is that we're going to have to play solid defense. We can't allow to give him extra outs. We don't need to run up his pitch count because we made a bad choice, and now he's going to be out there for 9 or 10 more pitches with that next hitter because we made a mistake. What happens with each batter, and you look at the statistics, what the average pitch per at bat is, it'll see why they run up the pitching count so quickly when you don't play great defense. So it's a good ballpark to play defense. The ball doesn't carry. We don't know which way the wind is blowing yet. But we've got a guy who's been as consistent as anybody on this staff. And what he does is he go out there and attack the zone. So I think him and the Giants pitcher's a sinker ball guy. Is Logan Webb is pitching tonight. So it'll be a lot of similarities. They're going to be looking for cheap strikes. They're going to be looking for poor swings. And they're going to be looking for early outs. And what they're going to do is try to make you elevate on something down in the zone. So the A's are a team that hit the ball out of the ballpark. They look for mistakes up in the zone. So they're going to have to come with a different approach. And Mark Kotsay talked about that. So I'm glad they'll get a chance to hear that interview and what he thinks their approach is going to be tonight. So it'll be interesting. And you hear me all the time, Cody, the game is about adjustments. Sometimes from day to day, at bat to at bat, from pitch to pitch. So a learning lesson against the Dodgers. You can't take nothing for granted. Things can change very quickly. We're in the game by the second inning, and by the third inning, we were out of it. Yeah. So that's how fast it is. But it's going to be very good, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
JP Sears, JP Sears last started at Oracle Park last year. Has only started 7 scoreless innings, so we'll see how he does. Shooty, thank you.
Pleasure. You
and Towny coming up at 6:30, A's Cast on NBC Sports California. But right now it's time for the Mark Kotsay Show, brought to you by Folsom Lake Ford.
Folsom Lake Ford here on A's Cast. Cots, it's good to see you back here in Northern California. You've been on a pretty tough stretch playing all these teams that are in first place right now. Talk about that stretch and now heading into the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious we played Seattle, now the Yankees, and now the Dodgers. So, those 3 teams are obviously first in their division. They're built to win championships. And, they have a lot of depth. So we come here in the Bay Area, again, to a team with the Giants that has a lot of similarities. They're playing really good baseball. Another tough series in front of us, but it does feel good to be back in the Bay Area for sure.
Congratulations, making it through the 40-something game stretch that you guys have, Mark. You face some of the best teams in baseball and some of the best players, the top 2 for sure. And to have some success and to get hit upside the head a little bit. What's the biggest message that your young players will take from you moving forward with the experience that you've had over this first part of the season?
Well, I think, the record one, we should look at that and evaluate kind of where we're at, right? We've played good baseball and we've obviously played some bad baseball. The best thing we can do as a group is learn from that bad baseball. We learn from where the areas that we've failed at and, try to improve on that. So based on, the point of the season, we're what, 42 games in, I believe we're 21-21. I think that's right. We've done okay. We've held ourselves above water. Like you said, we played a tough part of the schedule. We're going to continue to play some tough teams. I mean, we're here in the Bay Area playing the Giants. We're facing Logan Webb tonight. We got Justin Verlander on Sunday. We go home with an Angel series in division. We talk a lot about playing well in our division. That'll be a big series for us once we get out of here this weekend. And then we have the Phillies coming in, which is another great team, and a young stud on the mound in Jesus Luzardo, who we're all familiar with, that's having a phenomenal season for them. So it doesn't get any easier. It's definitely going to be a grind.
Is it odd? And as you just mentioned, not the Giants, but after the Angels is going to be the Phillies again. Is it just odd how much you've played the National League so far this year?
It definitely feels that way. That's well said. Towny, we have played a lot of National League teams, and we've yet to play Houston. And we're going to do that at the end of the month. But it does feel weird to have the majority. It feels like the majority of the National League teams behind us.
I've got receipts. I've got reports. I scouted you. I know how you played the game. I even watched you in a camp in Hawaii.
Are you talking about the Cal State Fullerton great, the
I'm just
Golden Spikes Award winner from
speaking about truth, nothing that I read on the internet. He put on a hitting exhibition one year over in Hawaii, and he went to work. And the kids wanted him to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He said, "Let me go to work and show you what I've done in my career to get me here."
Cots going yard in Hawaii?
No. He went back to hitting line drives. I say that to say this. When you got to the big leagues, you played for a manager, Jim Leyland, that expected you to play the game a certain way. And the way that you played the game was a way that you took everything that the opponent gave you, and sometimes you forced things on them. Getting to the big leagues, typically you're here and should know how to play the game. Unfortunately, they run these guys up here much quicker than they should. I admire a manager who is teaching at the major league level as well as trying to manage. I heard you say the other day in an interview, I understand this, I understand that, but I'm still a disciplinarian as well. How do you draw the fine line, Mark Kotsay, to keep the respect of your players?
Well, in today's game, obviously, like you mentioned, Shooty, they get accelerated to the big leagues, and you can look to their growth and development as young baseball players with the travel ball, scene and how much they get praised and how much, there's a lack of teaching the game, even at the high school level. We can go beyond and say in the college level, depending on the program that they're at. So, we get these guys that have never failed. And, if you're looking at our roster, a lot of number one prospects, a lot of first round draft picks, which is normal, right? Those guys are the ones that are going to be in the big leagues or are expected to be in the big leagues, but they've never really failed. And to get here to the major league level and to get exposed to obviously the best competition in the world. I went through it, after my rookie year, getting called up as a number one draft pick in '97. It was very challenging. I got sent right back to the AA level after 52 at bats of a learning experience. So, the disciplinary side has to come from just the effort level. And, but the big thing that I have to understand is that these guys have never failed. And it's really hard to deal with failure. It's hard to deal with it on a day in, day out basis, right? In the minor leagues, you get a break. At least you get a day off on Monday. Like they've done that. Maybe that's a mental health day off. I don't know. It doesn't say that, right?
No.
But man, like you go through 5-6 game stretch where you punch out 10, 11, 12 times, you might get, 3 of your hard contact line drives outs. Like dude, it's tough. So it's the teaching moments, right? And it's maturing these guys, helping them mature in that mental side of the game, as well as obviously the physical side of, trying to do too much. We saw a young player, right fielder, Lawrence Butler, yesterday go down the right field line. He went to his left. Mookie Betts is running on his second base, and we throw the ball home, right? It's energy, it's excitement, it's trying to make a play. It's all the youthfulness that we're still dealing with. Like, we just came from a season where these guys got their feet wet. They had some success. And now their expectation level is we're a championship ball club. Okay, well, we still have time to mature, time to grow. We want to be a championship ball club. If we learn from all these failures, we're going to get there, right?
Speaking on the teaching aspect of it and how tough it is to play this game every single day, there have been some lopsided games. There's no question about it. What do you say to your players? It's easier said than done just to say turn the page, but how do you keep them focused after some of these big losses?
I don't think you need to keep them focused. They got their ass kicked. Like when you get your ass kicked, you bounce back the next day. There's got to be an anger to you that says, all right, that was embarrassing. Like, let's go out and let's go play. Let's get back in this thing. And I think you saw that on this last, Yankee series. We got embarrassed Friday night. They came back and won a tough game on Saturday, right? And we go lopsided again. This is this part of the season where you go up and down. You like to be consistent, but again, you look at the roster, you look at the experience level, and you know that you're going to have these types of games that get out of hand, and it's how you fight through those games and bounce back. Just what you're saying, So I'm not concerned about. I don't go and address the team unless I really feel there's a need to, in terms of a lack of effort or lack of, if they quit. Like, I don't feel like we quit. I just felt like, like yesterday in the Dodger game, the last 4 innings, they got a guy that they brought up for AAA throwing 95 miles an hour with carry in the zone, left-handed. Nobody'd seen before, and he dominated us.
I don't mean to belabor the point, but I'm glad you brought that up about the play with Lawrence yesterday. And one thing that I talk about so much is how difficult it is to slow the game down at your major league level. And the best players find a way to do it. 162 games, the best players in the world. You want to impress. They've never played at this level in this amount of games. And to have to watch it on a daily level. And like you said, I tell Towny all the time, humble pie, everybody should get some. I just hope that you have a strong stomach, because it don't taste good and it's going to come out the wrrong way.
That's really well said, Shooty. That's well said. It is. It's hard to go through those moments. But you know what? It will make us stronger. It'll make us better when we come through it, for sure.
The guy you got going, JP Sears, he's been as good as anybody in the game of baseball. He's been very important to your team this year, really an anchor for your staff. Just break down how you've watched him grow as a starter and one of the leaders in your clubhouse.
Well, he just keeps evolving as a pitcher, and that's something that's a testament to him and his mindset, his growth mindset. The work that he puts in the off season to come in and be physically ready for, a 32 game schedule for him, right? He's done it back-to-back years. He's going into the third year of rolling out and making every start and continuing to add to his arsenal. He's continuing to, fine tune and make changes, right? And we talk a lot about that. You got to make adjustments when the league adjusts to you. You got to make an adjustment back, and he's been able to do that. And we're seeing the results this season so far.
Talking about adjustments, today's pitcher for the Giants, Webb, is a guy that throws sinker balls, keeps ball down in the zone. Everybody know we hit the ball out of the ballpark. What a great test for our young hitters to understand the type of pitcher that they're facing tonight and to make the adjustments that they're going to have some success against him.
Were you just in the cage?
No, we're in San Francisco. Just break it down, bro.
Because in order to beat a pitcher like this, you have to take what he gives you, and he doesn't give you a pitch to hit out of the ballpark. So tonight, the success will lie in whether our hitters can be disciplined enough to hit the ball low, hard, and the other way. Right? That's ultimately what Webb is going to give you, and again, this is a pitcher that reminds me a lot of a Greg Maddux. He's gonna attack you. He's gonna try to get ahead of you with his pitch, which is going to be normally a sinker somewhere on the outer third. He's going to let you roll over it if you're trying to hit a homer, right? He's going to sink you down and in as a righty. So yes, Shooty, tonight's game plan. In order to beat the best, you got to take what they give you for sure.
Let's go over a couple of the moves that were made today. Looks like Osvaldo Bido has been sent down to Las Vegas. Designated for assignment is Jason Alexander, Matt Crook, left-hander, and right-hander Anthony Maldonado coming up from AAA Las Vegas. What can you tell us about the moves? And just that's a really tough one for Bido.
Tough one for Bido, but like we talked about, this season, there's a performance level that we expect and that we want to see. And, for Bido over the last, few starts, I think, we've been evaluating it. He's obviously a part of this rotation. He earned that opportunity the way he pitched last season and through spring training. These first 5-7 starts for him, there's been a difference in the performance than that we saw last year. We're starting to dive into that. I think this is a reset. It's a reset. We could easily have moved him to the bullpen with the stuff that he has. But my expectation is that he's going to play a role back in this rotation at some point when he gets back on track. So not easy, obviously. I mean, he earned this opportunity to be a starter last year out of the bullpen. And, my thoughts are that he's going to get another opportunity to get back in this rotation when he goes back down and resets himself in AAA.
Mark, everybody couldn't help but get excited about the offensive prowess Nick Kurtz was on down in Las Vegas. And when he comes to Oakland, now people are worried about where he's going to play. How satisfying has it been for you? Not only has he enhanced our defense at first base, but Soderstrom moving to left field, there's another weapon out there, and that arm has been on display out there, and that has to be very encouraging to him to move out in the left field and have success in that way, because a lot of people probably felt that he was going to struggle a little bit offensively, changing a position in a season at the major league level, and as well as anybody, that's not an easy task to do.
No, it's not. And Tyler's been, as I talked about Tyler for the last month and a half, he's been one of our best players. And like you said, moving him off first base, put him in left field was a conversation that we started with Tyler prior to doing it. So it wasn't something that came out of, let's say left field. But he's been great. And, if you look at the data and the data supports what our eyes are telling us, this kid can play left field. He's got an ability to read the ball off the bat very well. His first step reaction distance is above league average. So all those intangibles that it takes to be a good outfielder, he has, and he's worked really hard at developing that athleticism, leaning his body out. And, I couldn't be happier about, the performance from Tyler.
The Mark Kotsay Show brought to you by Folsom Lake Ford. Kots, we appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend in San Francisco, and we'll see you next Friday back in Sacramento.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Get him.
All right.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
This has been a presentation of The Athletics.